The crypto gods decided to bless you with Cyber Monday specials across the crypto sphere, and you can see it exactly over there in the charts, right? Majority of the coins down quite aggressively, and it was one of the things we warned of. We said that bulls would need to fight tooth and nail to reclaim a significant key level. It was around $97,000 in order to avoid the MACD bearish cross on the monthly time frame, which is now officially locked in. We've seen it, right? So what's next? Is this going to lead to a daily higher low or new lows? We'll discuss this and a whole lot more in today's show. We'll also talk a little bit about some tether FUD that's recently come out. We'll have a look at the short trades, right? We have a lot of short trades on the table over there, locking in 148% profit on the Gravity short. And then there was a couple of other short trades that we gave over the course of Friday and Saturday. If you have been watching the videos, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So let's get into it. Smash the like button, go through over there and smash the like button. Helps me get the show content out. Vote as well. What you believe is most likely to come next for Bitcoin. Is it a higher low on the daily time frame, which 40% of you have clicked that button? Or is this going to lead to new lows? I'd love to get your input. While you're at it as well, I must quickly make mention before time runs out. It is Cyber Monday. If you go through to the top over here, this is your last chance. We only have 21 spaces left, and then whale room will be locked, meaning the only way that you can join is if someone else leaves. You're also getting a $5,000 Bitfunded account guarantee. Just read over there, read what this says over here, and every purchase will be added into a draw where you can win another $10,000 Bitfunded account as well on top of that. So you get unlocking massive value. Anyways, let's get into it. Let's get straight into the show content. MicroStrategy short trade, we did cover 75%. Now, you know, after today's sell-off, I have to reconsider. Do I just reallocate that 75% straight back in for low prices? I'm not going to make the decision yet. I'll update all of you in whale room later because I can only make the adjustment anyways when the New York market opens later on today, as this is not 24/7. It's not crypto, right? But nevertheless, playing out pretty much in full over here, 45.72% downside. We got some massive profits over there in MicroStrategy, and we did say that there's a chance that you'll get some sort of a relief rally. But if you spend a lot of time within this vicinity, it begins to just look like another bear flag that's going to be breaking down to even lower prices. And given crypto, Bitcoin's pullback that we're seeing right now in the sell-off, I would have to expect that MicroStrategy is probably going to be coming back down. So we're going to face that decision later on today. Do we just reallocate? Let's give it a bit of a chance. We'll see how the market unfolds over the course of today. Okay, I'm not going to focus too much on the rest of the other markets. We'll wait for those to open. That is MicroStrategy. And then we got, of course, the BTC MACD bearish cross has officially taken place. So the bulls were not able to get price back up to those levels. What I wanted to have a look at now is just out of interest. Well, what does this look like for the rest of the markets? What about the total crypto market cap? Bearish cross also confirmed, right? Bearish cross confirmed over there. Total 2 crossing down, total 3 also crossing down, others also already bearishly crossed for quite some time. So a lot of work to be done over here from the bulls. And it is QT. By the way, it's QT officially. So QT or QE at least, excuse me, the other way around. QT has ended. It's now QE. If you look at Benjamin Cowen's tweet, in 2019, the Fed announced that quantitative tightening would end on the 1st of August. This is very important to pay attention to. However, the balance sheet of the Fed did continue dropping in August, despite the fact that QT on paper had officially ended. They said they were going to end it for the 1st of December, which is now. And the last round of Treasury maturities did not settle until mid-August. What that means is just because QT ends now on the 1st of December, it doesn't mean that the balance sheet is immediately going to start going up. There's a saying, don't fade the Fed. So you want to wait for that balance sheet to start to move towards the upside, meaning that they're buying back assets, and then you trade in alignment with the Fed. And he says over here, it might take until early 2026 to notice that. But then the question is, well, if we're in a confirmed bear market, what does that mean for price? I guess what that would mean is just some relief rallies, some dead cat bounces, some low highs, macro low highs that could form when the QT does come into play. And then you probably still play out the bear market, but it could be setting things up for, I guess, the next cycle. So this is currently where we're at. If you are playing the game of it's a bear market and you're going from, peak to trough, well, ultimately, this is the peak. This is where we're currently at. And if we compare to last cycle, well, there's the fractal. that's exactly how it played out last cycle. So you can see this, if this is going to follow this fractal towards the downside, you'd be looking at into day 75, some sort of a local bottom that it could occur over there. Of course, I'm not a massive fan of fractals, but nevertheless, it's something interesting to look at over here, because you can just compare the same way that we compared on the way up, and it helped guide us at least for when to be aggressive, when to be conservative, when to be risk on, when to be risk off. We can do exactly the same thing over here. And if we look at cycle 3, so green is 2021, leading into that bear market 22, 23, and then we have the orange, which was leading into the bear market of 2018. That's coming off of your 2017 cycle. Well, you can follow those guides over there. So far, it's intact. Everything is following according to the prior bear markets. There's your cycle 2, which was the 2015. That's a 2015 after the 2014 peak. You went into the 2015 cycle. So let's have a look at a couple of other things over here. Bears still remain in control, entirely in control. And despite the fact that prices are coming back down towards the lows and possibly even going to make new lows, the sentiment has shifted quite a lot. It's still low sentiment, but it's not as low as what it previously was. We reached and touched down as low as 11 on the Fear and Greed Index, now sitting at 24. We'll see later on today if this does change, especially if we make new lows. It means that people are over it, right? I think that you guys can probably agree with that. People are definitely over it. We have the long to short ratio, negative 3.32% skew. It's not that significant. I want to see higher numbers than that. If we scroll a little bit further down, liquidations, this has picked up decently, but given the lack of volume in the market, given the lack of liquidity in the market right now, and the apathy, I think it's going to be difficult to get this to spike over $1 billion. But if it does, that becomes a good signal, right? A good signal to start to look to counter trade that and possibly look for some lows to form, some reaccumulation at those lows for a little bit of a short-term bounce. The daily exchange volume breaking below critical levels. We said one of the critical levels was going to be 43 to 44 billion. Daily seven-day exchange moving average over here officially breaking below, now at 40.19 billion. So losing some significant levels. And if it can't get back above that very, very, very soon, well, unfortunately, you're probably just going to continue to follow this trajectory, which is matching up beautifully with the green one from the 2022-23. I see over here, Grant says, I'm tired, boss. I think this is how a lot of people feel. But you need to stick it out. You absolutely have to stick it out. Don't go anywhere. There's still a lot of opportunities. Those who seek for opportunities will find them. And there is opportunities everywhere. There's gaps everywhere. You just need to look for them, and it makes it all the more hard, right? But that's where the great opportunities are, because if it was easy, there's not really an opportunity, right? So you got to stick through the tough times. So ETF flows going negative over there. And ultimately, yeah, not looking good, right? Most of the market is down quite aggressively over here. Let's move on. We'll go into Bitcoin. Contending with this key area over here, you have this white line, which is your upsloping trend line connecting all of these lows. You have your pivot level over here between those highs and lows. So therefore, this is an intersection or point where you'd want to see support to be found, but it worked the first time. It's not necessarily going to work if we continue to spend time over here. Remember, I always bring this to your attention when you see these bearish order blocks, and I did exactly the same thing when we're up here. I told you, this is a bearish order block that's forming. Now I'm telling you exactly the same thing. If this weekly closes down here, it is not going to be looking good, right? You open up the possibility that you're creating another bearish order block. So consolidating with equal highs and lows on the weekly time frame, multiple weeks consecutively in a row, 3-4 weeks in a row. Look at this one. 1, 2, 3, breaks down. 1, 2, 3. Next week, you'll break down if that happens, right? But the key point to focus on over here is if you do break down and you sweep those lows. I'm not going to spend too much time on it because I've covered it in previous videos, and you can just go back, and I just have to assume there's very few new people here. So you probably know exactly what I'm talking about, because you are the same bunch, the committed few that come here each and every single day. You have the swing failure. You sweep the low. 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 And you get these big bounces, right? You sweep the low. You run up towards the upside. So will you sweep that low? Well, if that bearish order block leads to a breakdown, you'll be sweeping that low into very, very, very key support or demand over here. Remember, you don't just blindly buy anything ever. You wait for the reaction and the confirmation that it's actually going to work out. And that confirmation only comes, once you've swept the low and got back above. So because for all we know, this is a bearish order block, closes like that, and just nukes and closes down here. You can see the problem, right? If you were to just simply set a limit order underneath there, that's crazy. You can't do that. So that's one thing that we'll watch to play out in the coming weeks and months. This could take time to play out, but anyway, I'll bring it to your attention. And then we'll get into the Tether FUD. There's always fears at certain points within the market cycles that Tether is going to depeg, and it has done that before, but it usually is very temporary. And of course, as somebody that is pretty much all in on stablecoins, USDT and USDC, this is something that concerns me. And it's something that I do look to. Now, what I would say is that most of the time, if that fear becomes real, if it is something that actually, does concern the majority of the people, and you start to move into, like, call it a panic state where USDT dominance is depegging, most of that money will just flow into Bitcoin because that's the rational, alternative. We'll go into USDC as well, but the rational alternative is you just move into Bitcoin, which therefore creates major lows and tends to bounce price aggressively. And this is what's happened in the past. If you've been following me for a long time, one of the biggest trades that we took was the USDC-D peg. In that instance, it wasn't USDT or Tether. It was USDC from Circle, right? They depegged in, I think it was in March 2023. Bitcoin went down to $19,000 or $19,200, and it was basically an all-in signal. So these things do happen from time to time. How do you deal with this? Well, if you are somebody that's in the stable coin camp where you risk off at the moment because you believe you're in a bear market, you can split your capital in thirds, right? 33% USDT, 33% in USDC, and 33% in actual dollars. Some exchanges offer that. You'll have to find one that works for you, but that's the options, right? There is things like DAI and RAI and all these algorithmically backed stable coins, which I don't know, I'm not so keen on because we've seen these things break before. That's what happened, of course, with what was it called? UST, right? Terra Luna stablecoin, and people lost all their money over there. So you need to be careful. You need to be careful. But anyways, let's get into the tweet over here. Tether just dropped their latest reserves report, and the numbers are serious. Their liabilities, 174 billion cash, and cash equivalents, 140 billion. Basically saying they're running a fractional reserve model like traditional banks, and they are solvent on paper, but insolvent in reality if everybody wanted to claim their Tether. Anyways, so we got that over there. You have the CEO of Tether who came out, Paulo over here, and he basically said that Tether Group's total assets are 215 billion, stablecoin liabilities 184.5 billion, and he says that the S&P made the same mistake not considering the additional group equity nor the 500 million in monthly base profits generated by their US Treasury yields alone. Some influencers are either bad at math or have no incentive or have the incentive to push people to their competitors like USDC, basically saying there is absolutely nothing to worry about. I always like to just look at the charts. Is there anything to worry about? Because I just told you that as somebody that is predominantly in stable coins, this stuff does concern me. I was worried last night. I was like, maybe I should just exit everything completely into the real world. And I went and just looked at the chart, and we're talking about the fourth time breakout. So very similar or I guess similar, but opposite, exactly opposite to Bitcoin, which if we go back to Bitcoin, and I highlighted this as well on Tether back at the time, bearish order block on Bitcoin leads to a downside move and continuation equals bullish order block on Tether, which leads to breakouts and continuation towards the upside, which means we should see the opposite right now. Bearish order block potentially forming, Tether, bullish order block potentially forming at a fourth time breakout level. See, a big SR flip region. And we spoke about this, right? So therefore, I'm not too worried, basically is what I'm coming at. I'm not too worried based on what I'm seeing over here. I'm not worried about the depeg anytime soon. I'll see it in the charts if it does become, something to be concerned about, which is usually going to be where you're sensing a local top on Tether and then you flip back into Bitcoin anyways. So that's what I'm waiting for over there. If this bullish order block leads to a breakout, that's going to drive price up to 7.8%. If we can monitor this on the lower time frame, which you can see over here, is still putting in high highs and high lows on the daily time frame, with the stochastic RSI as well now starting to trend back towards the upside. So it depends on the close, but if you close here or higher, of course, it's probably going to be bullish continuation, and then you can expect that this is likely going to lead to a breakout. Okay. Alrighty. So don't cry. Don't cry. I see that Ronix says they're going to cry. Don't cry. There's nothing to cry about. It's all good, right? It's just magical internet bean money. It's not real. So we covered this as well in Whale Room yesterday. I said that the bears remain fully in control. 97,392 is the level to reclaim to avoid the MACD bearish cross, which of course we got. I said what you may see happening over here is, of course, rejecting exactly where we would expect off the middle Bollinger Band at the 50% level, exactly what we spoke about all of last week. And consequently, the volatility is resetting. So that move up may be it. That may be the breather that the bears were looking for to take the next gasp of air before slamming price back down, which means expansion of that Bollinger Band with percentile, which means further downside price action. I did also highlight that you're threatening this level and you're possibly going to break through. And that's pretty much what's happened, right? So if you do get a daily close that looks like this, high likelihood and high probability that this is now your next lower high. Remember, where's the previous lower high? Because it's all about the trend, right? Lower lows and lower highs. Well, the previous lower high is there, which means that this, if you get confirmed daily closes hanging around here, becomes the next lower high. And we've seen all of this whilst being in a very low volume environment, which is why I wanted to highlight that, right? Not only low volume on the daily exchange volume, but also low volume on the price chart, which is what I told you last week is a warning sign for price. So, of course, in Whale Room, we shorted. Congratulations to one of our traders over there, one of our coaches, Waz, taking the short trade over there on BTC, playing out not in full yet, but getting there, right? 79,824 is targeting those lows, and that's the value, right? So if you guys want to be kept up to date, remember, limited spots, 21 by the end of the show. It may all already be gone. That's locking you in for 1 full year. Stick with us throughout the bear market. We're going to be doing a lot of short-term trading, not only in gold, equities, commodities, but also still in crypto. There is still a lot of opportunity. We're just not moon boys, right? That's it. Like, we're not just buying and holding things that are going to wreck you. We're doing day-to-day trades. So if you want to get involved, if you want to participate, the only way you're going to get in after that is you're going to have to wait for somebody to leave, because we're locking it down and you're getting a 48% discount, which means if you were going to join anyway, there's no better offer. On top of that, you're getting an indicator with this, which you can use to trade most specifically gold for your daily bread, right? So if you do want to get in, guys, last chance, limited spots, 21. This will refresh soon, and we'll see how much is left. Alrighty, let's continue. Low volume, big warning sign over there. And if the price is coming down and the volume is rising with red volume bars like this, it just reiterates that the bears are in control. As simple as that. The bears are in control. Now, we have hit very close to the golden pocket in the short term. Don't confuse the high time frames and medium time frames from the low time frames. I'm now talking about the 4-hourly time frame, which we measured the fib from the low to the exact high where you rejected off the yearly open. You had a strong down candle over here. And these are, I guess, the battle zones where bulls and bears in the short term are going to look to fight to take control over here. And one of the levels that you're looking at is 85,000, right in that golden pocket. In order to get any sort of optimism in the market, you do need to get above the purple line, which is 86,847. That's your 50% level. That suggests that, remember, when you're focusing on a range, you have your range low, you have your mid-range, then you have your range high. The bottom zone is your discount zone. The top zone, and we'll change the pattern over there, is your premium zone. So you want bulls to get into the premium zone, which means they need to reclaim that to have any sort of strength. Otherwise, you're in the discount zone, which is great for buying at the bottom of the discount zone, not the top of the discount zone. But you need to know that when you're in the discount zone, that's where bears are in control. Okay. So that's what we're waiting for over here. No trades to be taken, in my personal opinion. I was interested in a potential long trade, which I also updated the guys in Whale We can quickly go to that. And I actually gave them an analogy over here, which is very, very similar to what you're seeing on Bitcoin. So if you watch the show on Saturday, you'll remember we're looking at this exact trend line. We're looking at the break of the trend line and throwing back into this exact area. And we got it. Absolutely pinpointed, perfect. But the question is, how did you approach the level? That's what I always ask myself. It depends on how you get to a level. Now, it's going to be the same picture for Bitcoin, right? Let's just put that next to Bitcoin, next to that chart. So you can see Bitcoin theoretically coming into that key level. But how did you get to that level? And consider the following example that I gave them. I'm sharing a little bit of alpha from the Whale Room members, personal group over here. So I apologize for anyone that's in there. I know that this is reserved for you guys, but let's just give them a bit of taste of what we talk about, right? So I said, ETH came to the level previously outlined. It is holding up, but it's the way at which the level was approached. It doesn't leave me with confidence in buying this level up on Ethereum, right? Because that was previously the plan. We said over the course of the weekend, on Friday, I outlined it on YouTube. And then on Saturday, we started to see the breakdown develop. And I said, wait for it to drop down into that zone, 2822. I said, could it bounce? Of course, yes, it can bounce. But I think that a very good analogy to explain this is thinking about a racing car driver who's been tasked with the job of sliding their car through a corner with control. That's the key point, right? And then accelerating it into the straight. This is the equivalent of a driver who has slid the corner with luck, though. Basically almost spinning out, no control, right? And now we have to worry if he's going to accelerate into the straight without losing control and wiping the car out completely. That's how this sell-off makes me feel. That's kind of the way that I think about it, right? It's a racing car driver that he made it through the corner. He did the task. The task was to slide through the corner and accelerate the straight. So accelerating the straight would now be, of course, bouncing it out of here. That would be great. But he has no control. He got lucky. He lucked it, right? He lucked it through the corner. He hit the level, which is where we wanted to bid. But does he have the control now to come out? Or is he going to do this inverse fair value gap and just mark down? That's the problem. Okay, that's the problem. So when in doubt, zoom out and ask yourself, am I trading in the direction of the overall trend? And we know what the direction of the trend is. It's down. So when in doubt, should you take the long trade when the direction of the trend is down? Well, to me, it's no. I'm not going to do it. Okay. I'm not going to do it if they had control coming in here, which would have looked something like this. This would be control, right? I'm going to just draw it out. So we had price move up. There we go. This would be control into this area. Something a little bit more slow and steady coming in like that. There we go. Beautiful. Now you have control. You slid through the corner and you're ready for upside price action over there. Macro high low or low time frame high low has the potential to shift price higher. But this is a lack of control. I don't like that. So I'm not going to be buying that personally. I'm going to sit in the short trades rather. And you can have a look over here. You're also getting your red dot now on the momentum oscillator crossing back towards the downside, VWAP curling down. And ultimately, bears are in control, right? So they may break price through here. And also, we had the stubborn bulls keep coming back over here with their funding going positive. It would give me more confidence that the driver sliding through had control if this went more negative. That I would have liked to have seen that, but we haven't seen enough negative funding, in my opinion, which means there may still be more pain on the horizon. We also have ETH BTC. It can't hold this any longer. We're getting a decision. The apex, we're hitting the apex, right? If the crypto gods are absolutely cruel, what they'll do is they'll just flatline this through like that. But I highly doubt it, right? I think that you are going to get some volatility over here. You're either going to break up or you're going to break down. You know, the typical genius comment, it's going up or down, right? Well, it is, yes. It's going up or down based on what I'm seeing over here. I always like to add things together to look for that confluence. And because bears are in control, I would rather lean towards, unfortunately, this may not hold this area. This is where you wanted to see that bounce out, right? You wanted to see price come in here You wanted to see that nice, strong move. Now, again, can it happen? Of course this can happen. Absolutely, it can happen. It's just that the probabilities are not really in your favor. The probabilities are more that this is now just going to fall through on ETH BTC, which means that usually this happens in the form of a sell-off. When this chart is going down, it means that, you know, it can happen in a few ways. Bitcoin, so we'll put a B there for Bitcoin, could be going down, but then Ethereum is going down more. So there we go. When the trends are down, I have to assume that it's going to be this outcome. But this can also theoretically go down when Bitcoin goes up, but ETH only goes up a little bit more. There we go. So when Bitcoin outperforms ETH towards the upside, yes, this can also go down. Now, do I think that's what's going to happen? Or do I think that it's the first scenario where BTC goes down and ETH goes down more? Yes, I think that's probably what's going to happen. Unfortunately, given that the trend is towards the downside. So therefore, I basically can't buy this. Therefore, I just hold the short trades, which we gave a whole lot in the Discord as well. Zcash. So we're printing on the Zcash trade. That's going super, super well. It's not the only one. We gave a few more. I gave Syrup as well. So if you go into the Discord over there, you'll find the Syrup short trade as well. I gave those to you guys. I think it was, what day did I give this? I dropped it yesterday. Okay, so yesterday we gave the Syrup short trade. Let's just quickly let that load up. Is it going to work? Why is it going so slow here? All right, try that again. Should I refresh it? Let me even try refresh it. Sometimes Discord, when you're live, seems to struggle over here, but let's try it again. So we go back down, got the, there we go. So we got the Hedra, that was the other one. Hedra, we didn't quite get because I wanted to see a bit of a bigger bounce up, so I didn't take that trade over there. You got the Syrup short trade over there exactly at the spot. We got the World Liberty Finance short trade over there. And those are the trades, right? So let's have a look at them. Syrup in the money, World Liberty Finance in the money as well, rejecting, coming down. If this starts to take out this trend line, then you're talking about those low prices. Okay, so those are the main positions. ASTER, I also spoke about breaking this trend line and saying it's going to drop down to about 86, but I'm not short on this. I'm short on MicroStrategy, Zcash, Syrup, and World Liberty Finance. Those are the predominant positions over there. Alrighty. Oh, by the way, if you do want to participate in the tournament, they have a Gravity trading competition. It's all linked in the description below, by the way, guys. If you're already on Gravity, you simultaneously farming points for their airdrop. Hopefully they launch into some sort of a bouncy bullish season, but yeah, just to let you know, that is what is going on over there. Let's go through the rest of the charts. I'm going to go on the daily. Unfortunately, for many of these coins, it looks like lower highs are almost inevitably confirmed, which means what do you have to look for next? You get lower highs and lower, should I say it, or are you guys going to say it? What comes after the lower highs? Lower highs and lower, yes, lower lows, unfortunately. So XRP, look, that was a beautiful reaction over there. This is going to be key support, 190. Hopefully that holds. Solana already almost coming in for the lower low. Low high, lower low would be 104. Right, between that 105 and 110, within that zone over there, it's going to be key support. We have 𝗬𝗎, absolutely shocking. I couldn't even make it into the relief rally zone. Didn't even get close to that 50% level. Probably going in for new lows. Sonic, already at new lows. I'm not considering this because this was a forced liquidation event. So theoretically, on closing basis, new lows, say new lows. Cardano, new lows. AVAX coming in for new lows. TON also soon new lows. We spoke about Casper and had the ability to actually take a short trade over there. Yeah, it's on the table. We have Tron, lower highs, probably going in for the new lows. Plasma, absolutely shocking. Pump at key support. This is a revenue generating protocol, pump.fun. It's just, will they have the appetite for anybody to do anything on their platform? Which means if they don't, there's no revenue, which means it could fall through. But because it's revenue generating, sometimes these are the better options to look at. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty brutal. I'm trying to even be optimistic and say maybe you're going to have like some sort of a falling wedge over here into key support. Like this is really, really clutching at straws over here for the bulls. But you could throw that in. Let's just lighten it. So just to show my conviction in this, we'll lighten and we'll put like little dots over there. because that's how my conviction is in this falling wedge. Alrighty. Up 180% on the HBAR short. Well done. You entered in the short a little bit early. Well, at least, actually, it's not early. It's just on time. It's just that the invalidation for me personally was like a bit far away. And I would have preferred to see a bit of a stronger bounce in there. We forgot to look at the actual Zcash chart. So let's do that. Here's the Zcash trade. You guys know it. We had been short on this, and it's working out absolutely beautifully. So there is no risk now. Of course, you can eliminate the risk. You cannot lose on this trade. This is going to be critical support. Very, very, very important support. I do believe this will bounce price. The next bounce will probably lead to your complacency bounce, your proper complacency bounce. So I think you'll see something like this. That bounce is probably playable. Like you can probably play that all the way back up. And then it's over. What did I tell you about Zcash? I told you guys, I said that probably in the first week of December, by the first week of December, but I want to give myself a bit more runway. And I wanted to say that before the end of December, Zcash would have topped. Major cycle top, it's over. That was my opinion. Okay, that's my opinion. It's still my opinion. And the reason why is simple, because I mean, the parabolic run was 9 weeks in a row. I was like, it's not going to go beyond 9 weeks in a row. That's it. It's overextended. TD sequential 9 top on a weekly count. And consequently, we're also seeing what's starting to look like a topping pattern over here, and down it went, right? So there it is. We shorted it. I couldn't short up here because not enough confirmation. So I waited for the break of this trend line. Rather late than never, with higher confirmation and insurance of price coming down. Mert said it's going to go to 50K. I mean, somebody check on Mert. Somebody check on Mert. Okay, cool. Let's have a look over here at your comments, guys. What else have we got? What else have we got? Let's see. Anything major that we've missed? Even BNB, which has been one of the strongest, rejected off of the zone that we said, which I'll go into the daily to remind you of that. That was the breakdown of this trend line over here. Relief rally into that zone, coming down. It's going to find support at about 683, which I guess is important to look at because it can kind of give you an idea of the stronger blue chips that are out there, which, you know, love them or hate them. Binance's coin or BNB is one of those blue chips. Well, if this is going to go down another 17, 18%, what does that mean for the rest? I'm highly confident that's going to happen. Very, very, very confident. Given the speed of this move, it's falling through. Like, I'm highly confident this is going to come all the way down here before finding support. It may even break this trend line for all we know, but at least 17% down. Okay. So, alrighty. Let's see what else. So it's painful. It is painful for the bulls out there. It is very, very, very painful. We got another lower high over here on SPX 6900, which is many's favorite altcoin, many people's favorite meme coin out there. And now this is going to have enough momentum, I believe, to break this yellow line at 45. Virtuals. We can go to virtuals. I know there's a request there. I did look at it this morning because I went through my full list again this morning just to see what's cracking, and it's not good. Yeah, it's going to go all the way down. I mean, you're talking about full retraces over here. 40 to 42 cents. 40 to 42 cents is very likely. There's nothing good out here. There's nothing, guys. I put it on the top because that was like the only thing that seemed to have some potential is Monero. But it's like, do you really want to long the needle in the haystack? Which is what you hope is the needle in the haystack. That's assuming you pick correctly, right? But yeah, XMR, which is Monero, privacy. It's the only one. It's the only one. I mean, this thing could actually explode when you think of it, because you're talking about as well the potential for a fourth time breakout, which is just insane. Like maybe all the Zcash manipulators are moving it into Monero now. And 1, 2, I mean, I'm being generous and maybe calling that the third, which is why I'm adding this as possibly the fourth. This is the only bullish thing in crypto. If this starts to break above here, 456, you get a close over there, this thing is going to cook. You can even call this a cup and handle. I mean, maybe this is the only trade. Maybe this is the only trade. You can even call this a cup and handle, which means $740 Monero. Can you believe this? There we go. $740 Monero. It wouldn't even surprise me. So if you want a 78% long trade, you love longs, you can't get enough of the longs, right? You just always long on the wrong thing. Monero. Just rather go long Monero, right? This has got the highest probability of playing out. 𝗙𝗘 is dead. Do you really want to look at 𝗙𝗘? It's going to be gone. 𝗙𝗘 is not going to be in a good place. 𝗙𝗘 USDT. I'll try and choose something with the most price history. Whereas, yeah, 𝗥𝗢 usually has a lot of price history. It's going to be absolutely rinsed. There we go. This does not even deserve the "you brother, what's that?" sound clip. It's not even deserving of that. Okay. So yeah, a lot of terrible charts out there. It's basically like, instead of you know, looking for what could be going down, it's like just find one thing that could be going up, and the only thing is Monero and USDT dominance. Monero's down on the day, but I think this one stands a chance, at least. Everything else is wrecked, completely wrecked. So let's have a look on a lower time frame over here at Monero and just see what's cracking. Very choppy all over the place. I think you know, on something like this, you're just executing on the daily. And that's it. You're hoping for the best. Executing there, tight stop loss under the daily low, and just hope this thing keeps melting up. Or you can wait for the confirmation of the break above the neckline for the cup and handle. This is a cup and handle, right? You have a cup and handle over here. It is, there we go. Your rounded bottom, cup, handle. And inside that cup and handle is money, which is going to break out. Looks very likely to me. Very, very, very likely to me. Alrighty. Why is Monero going up though? It could be manipulation, right? It could be OGs in the space. Obviously, there's always going to be someone that comes up with a narrative. Oh, it's privacy. It's what Bitcoin was originally meant to be. The same story with Zcash. Just flip that script into Monero. That's basically what it's going to be. But the answer is that there's buyers that are stepping in, and there's not that many sellers. That's it. That's the answer. And I think probably a rotation out of Zcash into Monero is one of the likely outcomes. But it's all, you know, controlled, controlled manipulation, whatever you want to call it. But it's fine. That's the beauty of the charts. That's why I love technical analysis, because even if it's manipulated, you can join in on the trend without doing anything illegal. It's amazing. And then the trend will show you when it's coming to its end, and then you jump out. So again, guys, if you want to learn more, you know, jump into 𝗪𝗏. Jump into 𝗪𝗏. It is the final opportunity, final call, last call. Get all of your stuff, right? TradingView, everything. I do all of that stuff on between Black Friday and Cyber Monday. You got NordVPN, huge savings. It's effectively like 90% off on NordVPN. You can save on the ledgers. You got all the various different savings over here. They're giving you, I believe it is 50%. Yes, 50% off on ledgers. Protect your capital. You know, get your free Bitfunded accounts. You can also, last chance as well for Bitfunded. 16 minutes left to go. It looks like maybe they'll reset it for Monday, for Cyber Monday, but it's buy 3, get 6, 50% off, and big point, 100% profit split. Remember, by joining into 𝗪𝗏, you're automatically getting a 5K account anyway, guaranteed. That's happening. And then you entered into the draw for the 10K account. So this is the final call. If you want to join, you can scan that code if you happen to be on a computer. I mean, on a TV, you're watching on TV. Otherwise, just use the link in the description below. There it is. 𝗪𝗏, final chance. Just put the code in, Cyber Monday, right? You got to put the code in. Copy that code, Cyber Monday, add it in the bottom like this, apply it. It will give you the discount. There is not going to be any better time than now if you decided you wanted to join. So that is it from me, folks. I'll see you all on the next one. I hope all of you have an absolutely lovely day. Whale remembers I'll update you on all of my positioning for things like MicroStrategy and what I'm doing in the short trades. If we're going to cover those, just check in Captain's Take section. The rest of you, I'll see you all tomorrow. Cheers for now.